Well, I'm a little out of practice. Sorry, I should have started with that opening card. Well, hello, you guys. It's almost New Year's. Can you believe it? We're going into 2022. That sounds like science fiction to me. I mean, when I stop and think about it, it just sounds like how could we be that far into the future? Anyway, hello, you guys. Tell us where you are viewing us from. Okay, I see GM. Where are you? And want to welcome you guys to the last broadcast of 2021. This is the final broadcast. So I hope you guys are ready for New Year's tomorrow, New Year's Eve. And yeah, Gear is in Norway. Hello. Okay. And Banjar? Okay, hello. So we'd love to see where you guys are. I'm going to tell you guys a little story, okay, about your friend Marc Silber, Niagara Falls. So I have a Vespa. You might have seen this video. This is something we actually use in our campaign for AYP when we first launched it. I use my Vespa a lot to go out and photograph. It's actually very handy because you can maneuver around and get in and out of spaces and whatnot. This is my own little hometown here. Those call-outs are from that ad. Monterey, I'm sorry, this is in Carmel, California, and a lot of surfers and whatnot. Well, Sunday, you know, it had been raining a lot, and on Sunday I rode my Vespa down our very steep driveway, and there was some debris left over from the rains, you know, some branches and stuff. And I was going just a little too fast down the driveway. It's a steep driveway and there's a curve at the bottom. And my front wheel, you know, these Vespa wheels are not very big. My front wheel hit that debris and flipped. The whole bike flipped. You know, instead of the wheel going downhill, it's now spinning uphill. And I am lying backwards like this, upside down backwards, headed downhill, with the Vespa on my leg, my left leg, pinned under this thing. Not a good feeling, and I was also smelling gas. Those are moments where, you know, one of my sons said, you know, Dad, it's amazing how you can be in a situation and 2 seconds earlier, your life is completely different. 2 seconds later, there you are. And I was in that situation, lying upside down, wondering how I was going to get this thing off of me because no one was home at that moment. And there's a road, a small road right next to us, but I didn't know if anybody could even see me. I didn't want to call 911 because I knew it would be this big ordeal of like sirens and, you know, they send 3 trucks out. And I'm like, I don't want to go down that road. Fortunately, about the time I was kind of contemplating what I was going to do, some very nice people stopped. A dad and his son, about 10, 12 years old. Dad came over, pulled the Vespa off of me, put it upright. Didn't ask me any dumb questions, you know, when people go, "Oh, are you okay, man?" No, didn't ask me anything like that. Of course I'm not okay. I'm lying backwards, upside down with this Vespa on top of me. Didn't do any of that. I really want to thank you, and I'm sorry I didn't get your name, and I wish I'd gotten your phone number to thank you, but if for some mystical reason you're watching this broadcast, thank you, because I really so appreciate your help. And, you know, we pulled the thing off. I actually kept going on my way. I was going to the store. I went to the store. I didn't realize how banged up I was. The adrenaline was still going, and it wasn't until I came back and I kind of settled down for a minute that I realized that something is really hurting here a lot. And so I ended up going to the emergency room, and thank you to the emergency room. Fantastic service. They got me right in. I was x-rayed. I have 3 broken ribs. Yes, 3 broken ribs. And some complications with it, believe it or not. And here's the deal. They treated me expertly, and I got on my way and actually got some antibiotics because I have some fluid in my lungs. And that got cleared up. I gotta say, after a couple of days, I've got my range of motion, and it hurts to move around. But the main reason I wanted to tell you guys about this is not to tell you my woes, and it's just, we have to take those moments when we can be really thankful of being whole and being in one piece. And even when you do something dumb like me, where I rode too fast down the driveway, bam, hit the pavement, coming back from that. And as photographers, we're going to find ourselves in tough situations. I remember we had Bob Holmes on the show. You guys might have remembered. He was banged up because he'd been rock climbing and took a fall. And, we're not going to stop doing stuff. And, we're not going to slow down. But it is important to notice your environment. And if I had one single message, it's not be careful. I don't even know what that means. Be careful. Of course you're going to be careful. It's be watchful, be mindful, look around is really more accurate. And that's what we want to do as photographers, is look at the environment, see what's there, be really conscious of it, and plan accordingly. And so thank you guys for your good wishes. And I will be more mindful next time I get out on my Vespa. This is the Mission Ranch that you're seeing, which is owned by Clint Eastwood. He's my neighbor. Very cool. I walk over there all the time. And what we're coming up to here on the right is the Carmel Mission. If you're on my Instagram, which you guys should be, and there's my handle right there, I photographed this a lot. This mission was built 250 years ago. It's one of the oldest structures in the entire state of California. And I live right near it, so it's kind of cool. And this is me getting out and about, taking my Vespa around my little town of Carmel. So there you have it. Well, thank you guys for listening to me. And just remember how important it is, because there was a couple of days, Monday, Tuesday, yesterday was a little bit of a turning point, but those 2 days I really didn't feel good at all. I was pretty banged up, and mainly just tried to sleep it off, which is one of the best things you can do whenever you're injured or ill, is just get a lot of rest. And I went out yesterday, took a 4.5 mile hike with my dog River, who's sleeping on the floor. So I'm thankful that I came through it pretty easily. Okay, so we're going to talk next week. I want to let you guys know it's really important to plan your goals for 2022. So next week's broadcast is going to be all about getting your goals set, and come to it with your goals. If you haven't already done it, you can do it right on the spot. And if you haven't figured out what your goals are, well, that's cool too. You can listen to the broadcast and come away with tools that can help you set your goals. Not just set your goals, because anybody can write a goal down and put it on their refrigerator. The important thing is how you take that goal and put it into action. Otherwise, it's like a fortune cookie. Okay, you're going to live long and prosper. So what? It doesn't change your life. What you want is action. How do you take that goal, which you visualize, and it is a visualization, and put it into action? And there are some tools that I can help you with. And that's one of the hats I wear. I am a consultant. I do a lot of business consulting, and I'm always working with clients on that exact point, which is what is your vision? How are you planning to take your business from wherever it is and move it to the next level in the next year? And we work strategy out to get there. And that's one of my hats that I wear. Okay, so Jared, we have some photographs to look at, right?
Yeah, and while you're getting my screen up, I
There it
want to
is.
remind people that it's not too late to submit your images.
Oh, and it's not too
So,
late
oh
to
yes,
subscribe. I always forget this. Enable the bell because you don't want to miss any of our shows. We've got some cool stuff that we're definitely going to be doing in 2022. There is going to be some changes. I want to let you know. We're going to go back to some of our premiere interviews with some major photographers, and you'll see those coming up. But yes, how do they submit their photos?
I've got a link in the chat and in the description,
Good,
so you can go to our group AYP Club, ask to join. I'll accept you, and then submit your photo.
awesome. Okay,
All right.
so
So this is from our friend Gear. So the title is Dan's Who's Looking. So this picture was made by stitching 3 pictures into one. Exposure is 92 seconds, and it was taken with a medium format film camera with a 180 millimeter lens. The film used was IFER Delta 100. I started the exposure and ran into position, counting the time and running back to stop exposure.
oh, that's pretty amazing. Wow. Dan's, I love that. So you put it on a tripod, you press the shutter, you ran into position here and held that position. This is an interim scene. I guess you held that position for a moment. And these are 3 different exposures, I suppose, right? So
Yes, three stitched together.
amazing. Well, Dan, that's pretty cool. And the fact that you shot it with 100 ISO film, that's pretty remarkable. And it's very creative. I mean, it's awesome. I love that you're exploring and finding that, whatever that creative spark is. And that's one of the things I want to explore. That's one of my goals for 2022. I've written a book about creativity, but I'm going to go deeper. I want to find what are those elements that really spark creativity, and I've covered that, but I want to go deeper into that. We're going to do some interviews specifically on that. But anyway, it's a very cool image. Very cool. Good one.
Oh, all right. Our next one is from our friend Wayne. And so Bella's first ever homework assignment from preschool. I
Nice.
always try to get on the level of my subject for an ultra realistic perspective.
Yeah, that's really good, and that's something to remember about photographing children too, especially. If you're always kind of looking down, what does it do when you photograph down? You make the subject appear smaller and less significant in the frame.
Oh,
Oops.
I don't know. I
So
don't know what happened. 1 second.
we'll go back there. And
There you
so
go.
when you're photographing slightly at an upward angle, I mean, you're kind of at her eye level, I guess, basically. But it's really seeing from her point of view. And that's actually an important composition tool is the viewpoint that you're assuming. And you can assume a viewpoint looking down, you can assume a viewpoint looking up. There's all different angles. But that's a very cool photograph. And you've used a shallow depth of field, so the stuff in the foreground and the background are pretty blurred out, which is important on this kind of photograph. Otherwise, all those other things going on, like the railings on the stairs and stuff, start to compete. But those you've blurred out nicely. And I love her expression, like she's working out a problem there. So, yeah, good job. I don't have any particular critique. The only thing I might, yeah, it's just kind of a minor. I don't know what this object is on the very left. It's I don't know if you could have what it would look like if you just crop that. I don't know that's important in the photograph. It might be interesting just to crop it off and see. I love seeing her little toy doll, her bear over there. That's really cool. But I would just maybe get rid of. I'm just holding my hand up to see. I would probably just crop that out. But that's
It
your
could
call.
be he shared a couple other photos that he took. Maybe it's like another assignment that was
Could be.
being worked on, and in the context of the story, you know what it looks like.
Yeah,
Could
that's
be.
possible. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Anyway, that's I would consider that a minor point. The rest of it is perfect.
Yep.
So good job.
All right. Our next one is from Alan, and no caption with this one.
Okay, we've got tracks going around, like maybe even a heart shape. That's hard to say, not necessarily. Black and white. It's an interesting geometry. We've got angles. Geometry is always interesting. You got a sunburst there. Personally, I mean, the only thing I would say is add a subject to it because I don't see a subject. It's a scene, but somebody walking around in there, making those footprints, a dog, person on a bird or bike or something, and you could have run it. You could run into the frame as our previous photographer showed us. You could be your own subject. That would be the only thing because the scene is set. It's interesting. It's got angles. It's got a starburst, but we need a subject. We need a central point to go, oh, okay, that's what this story is. So that's, you've heard me mention that before. Many times you come across a scene and it's like very cool and it's very photogenic. You just need to add that one element to it, a person or a dog or a bird or something, some life form moving into the frame. All right.
All right. Here's one from our good friend John over in
John,
the
I
UK.
recognize your work instantly. I love this
Yep.
photograph, John. That's very cool.
Doing gig photography with an old uh, Yeshka and
Yashika.
Yashica and Tri-X had to
Oh,
use
wow.
DOF markers on the lens to focus since the rangefinder patch just couldn't cut it in these dim conditions.
Okay. Wow, you're really getting old school there, John. By the way, thank you for whoever put their thumbs up. It does seem to help us on the broadcast, let people know about it. So if you guys wouldn't mind doing it, I know you're enjoying this. John, bravo, man. I've seen a lot of your work, and this is one of my favorite photographs from your series. There's a lot of cool elements in this. The light, and the streaks coming down from above. And the fact that you shot it on film with Yashica, wow. And you had rangefinder cameras. That's an old camera you've got there. I'm guessing maybe from the 60s. Uh, so you had to put markers to see where your depth of field was. Otherwise, you couldn't see it in the rangefinder. That's pretty cool. Good one, John. I love the angle of the drummer and the fact that we can kind of see these lines of energy coming off of him. I mean, it's coming off the light, but it's really well captured because it's not interfering with his face and his upper body there, but it's kind of like these lines are coming out of the whole energy. That's very cool. I'm reading a book right now. This is a memoir by Dave Grohl, of the Foo Fighters. He was the drummer for Nirvana before that. And so I'm kind of into this whole thing of drummers and the energy of drumming, and he's talking about it a lot because imagine being the drummer for Nirvana. I mean, they were at one point probably the biggest group in the world, and certainly really broke major ground. And he was like 21 years old. So this photograph reminds me of that. You've got the energy, the guy with his shirt off. That's how a lot of these drummers do drum because they put out a lot of energy and heat, and so they take their shirt off. Anyway, well done, John.
All right. The next photo that we've got, this one is from Ralph.
Oh wow! I don't
And
know where that
this
is, Ralph.
the
I've never been there. I'm
yeah.
just kidding.
This photo was taken approximately 2 weeks ago after the first snow of the
Ah,
season in Yosemite Valley. Although it
yeah,
was quite cloudy as it was approaching sunset, as it was quite cloudy as it was approaching sunset, a light hint of color captured the clouds for a few minutes. Given the color in the sky, I prefer this to a black and white version. When it comes to photographing famous places, I am always looking for something a little different. This shot
yeah.
was taken very close to where one of the webcams is located.
That is Awani Meadows, I believe. I've been there many times, and I photographed from that spot. And yeah, it's difficult to get a photograph of Half Dome that is not a postcard that somebody else hasn't done before. And you've done a good job because you're right. I haven't seen the sky just with the pinks and the blues. I would is since you're going with color, I would do some work on the clouds and bring that out even more. You could do a mask and just bring up the clouds. Probably pull down the highlights, pull up the shadows, play around with it a little bit. I'd go full on with
I
that.
don't know
Whoop,
why it's doing that. That's the
you're
second time. My
yeah.
computer's being very jumpy today.
It's
I apologize.
yeah, that's
I'm
fine.
not in my normal setup. I'm currently at my folks' place, so I
I
don't know
see.
if that's affecting things.
Anyway,
Apologies.
I love the detail, and you've got a beautiful capture of the snow, and that's gorgeous. That would be my only thing. Maybe just if you're gonna go work with those clouds, just enhance them even more. Just it's just a processing thing. And remember, look, it is about processing. Ansel Adams took all these photographs of Half Dome, and he had a dark sky. I mean, somebody said, "Oh, you're such a realistic photographer," and he said, "No, I'm not. You don't ever see a black sky. It's all in the processing and the developing." Anyway, that would be my recommendations. Try that out. Maybe put another version on to the AYP clubs, and we can see it. But I love the tones in the foreground and going up Half Dome. The snow is just awesome. It brings a whole different element to the scene. That's great.
Yeah.
And Batarang saw Dave Grohl and Nirvana. Wow, that was a while ago,
Yep.
wasn't it? 91, I think. Well, I don't know. When did they? How long did Nirvana go until 94 or so? Anyway, it's a while
I
ago.
think so.
Yeah. Cute
This is
photograph.
from Ion Dip, and it was First Winter was the caption with it.
Yeah, so it's a really cool photograph, and I like that there's more of a scene there because of the background, but you've used a good depth of field to eliminate distraction from the background. So my eye goes right to the puppy, but then the story kind of continues. Like if it was just cropped off, it would be like, oh, that's a cute picture of a puppy, but because of the background, it leads me to wonder where is this in? I believe it's in India, right? I'm
I believe
guessing.
so.
Yeah. So here's this puppy, pretty young, 3 or 4 months, something like that. I'm guessing River is just going to turn 8 months in a couple of days on Sunday. Um, So it's a little scene of the puppy and the scene in the background, and I would say this is part of a story. There's more to the story. Maybe you're photographing this puppy, you're going through this little village or whatever, or maybe you're photographing the village and this is one scene. But I see this as a kind of a part of that ongoing story. But good job, and I like the black and white for sure. It works really well. You guys are doing great work.
Yeah. All right. This is from our friend Mache, and this was done. This is part of a summer travels, like the canoeing series. We saw one in
Oh
the last
yeah,
show, and
yeah.
so this is a summer barbecue supper, and the only lighting is from these headlamps that different
Interesting.
people are wearing. That's the only lighting that they have.
Yeah. Okay, it's an interesting, what I would call a transitional photograph, or Dan Milner would call it, with it's part of a story. On its own, I don't know if it's a standalone photograph, but it's an interesting, like as part of your whole story, transition or linking photo, Dan calls it. So you might have other photographs of this canoe trip going on, which you've shown us, and this was one, in that series, part of your story. It's kind of interesting because you've got the guy with a headlight on the right, but then this person with kind of an odd expression. I don't know what is going on there. Like they're shouting or something. There's something going on with that expression. I can't quite see. And then there's people. They're all reading something. Now that I'm kind of looking into it, looks like you're doing some kind of a reading or something. Anyway, yes, it's a linking or a transitional photograph, and I'd like to see the whole series. If you don't mind putting that on AYP Club, that would be cool. By the way,
Yeah.
share. Don't hesitate. You guys we're looking at your photographs here. If you've got other photographs that go with a series or whatever, make sure you do put them on the AYP Club so we can see the whole series. You can certainly put as many as you want there. And if you find whatever suggestions I've made useful, go ahead and put the before and after, because that's also good to get feedback as well. All right, what else have we got?
Here's one from our friend Amir. This is a building, I believe, called The Vessel. That's the mark. So it's The Vessel, New York City.
Wow, I've never seen that building. Okay. I would not have placed it in New York City. And it's an interesting angle of how these floors, I mean, it's obviously the way it's photographed because these floors have to be level for people to stand on them. But I'm just sort of trying to imagine how that building looks. You got a punctuation point here. That's cool with a red hat. That definitely helps. And you've got your geometry here, and this is obviously all about geometry. I'm going to classify this also as a linking or a part of a story photograph. Maybe you're photographing New York City, maybe you're photographing in that one environment, whatever. I see this as a photograph as part of a series. And this is an important thing, you guys. Just keep in mind that a photograph can be a complete standalone, like the Half Dome one. That can be a standalone photograph. We've seen earlier examples of standalone photographs, and then you have photographs that really should be part of a series to be understood. So keep that in mind when you're showing your work. Is it a single image, or is it going to be 3 or 4 images linked together? And I do see this as a part of a LinkedIn series here, or a series that's linked together, I should say. Okay, if you wanted to obviously handle the geometry of this, you can certainly adjust that in Lightroom and make those floors level. I would probably recommend that just because now it's a little like, ooh, what is this, odd geometry. But that's something you could try. Why don't you test that out? And if you don't know how to, you should know how to use those lines, and you can just make that whole building front come towards you, and it will level it out. You can do it in Photoshop or Lightroom, or probably I imagine many other platforms as well. I would suggest you do that. Let's just see, what that looks like. You can again put that into the AYP Club. All right, Jared, who's next? We got time for a few more.
Yeah, so this is from Banjara, who just joined the AYP Club. And they shared a couple photos of their work, and I really liked this one. So
thank you for joining. It's welcome to our group. Very amazing photograph. Very amazing photograph. I mean, the subject is so compelling. Um, this is a very old person, and but there's a lot of stuff going on here. It's really the angle of the hand, definitely accentuates and brings your eye right to the face, the eye of the subject here. Yeah, that's like a leading line right there. And this scarf is, the colors and almost matching that person's skin. But we see very clearly the face and the expression. And it's not a face of contentment. It's not a face of hope. And it's not a face of ease. There's some dis-ease there. Not disease, dis-ease. There's some worry and maybe pain. And you've captured that really well. The colors are beautiful. You've really got this thing blended well together, and you've done some good things in the processing. You've burned the edges, unless it just exposed that way. I don't think so. I think you've
yeah, it
gone
looks
in,
burned. Which
yeah,
is good. It's well done.
you've very definitely taken care of those edges, which is good. So it keeps our eye really really focused on the subject. So well done, bravo. Definitely would love to see more of your work now that you're in our AYP club.
Yeah, be sure to keep submitting.
Absolutely.
Well, you know what? This was the next photo I was going to bring up.
I know
anyways.
who this is, Bert.
Yep, this is our good friend Bert. He got to do a Navy game. So here's one of the images that he shared. He did a pro wrestling and a Navy game. So go and check out his work on the AYP Club if you want to see some of the other photos.
Expression is the whole name of the game, isn't it? And that's like, what are these guys looking at? It just draws you in because of they're both. What are they seeing? A 3-pointer? I mean, I don't know what it is, but it's interesting because they're both sort of. The guy on the left is a little more horrified than the guy on the right, but there's definitely some surprise element happening here. And Bert, well done on pressing the shutter at that moment, because it's what makes the story. Without it would be like, okay, cool, 2 players, that's interesting. But you've got them like there's a moment, something's happening. And we can't see what they're seeing, but we're seeing that they're seeing something. And that's definitely drawing us in. So, Bert, you always do good work, and I really like this one a lot. It's a good job.
Yes. All right, this one is from Christy. And the caption with this one, let me bring it back up. A moment in winter.
Christy, beautiful photograph, and I love the reflection. It doesn't have necessarily. It doesn't have a specific center of interest, but that's okay. It works, and you'll find me maybe contradicting myself. Well, you have to have a punctuation point or a center of interest. The photograph itself, the reflection is the center of interest. That is where your eye goes, and it's framed by the trees. But what I see, is just I'm taking in the whole thing at once, and so it's almost like the entire photograph becomes the center of interest, which can be done, and you've done a good job with it. And definitely black and white makes this work, because we're not seeing any other elements of color. We're just seeing pretty high contrast black and white, and the angles are very interesting. We've got a kind of we've got a set of leading lines with the edges of the stream, and we've got angles going this way with the branches and the reflection. All those are really cool compositional tools, and it works. That's a cool image. So good job.
All right. I think we got time for 2 more.
Okay.
Here, this is Kev, and this was taken at Lake Menedith in Scotland. Hope I said that right.
Yeah, cool sunset elements. And, you've got the color is the main thing that's going on here for me, is just the color of the sunset. And you've got some rushes over on the side and the reflection. The elements, okay, so focus,
Yeah.
whoop, we'll see that one in a second. Your computer has a mind of its own.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on today. It's being very glitchy today. Gonna have to do a reset after the show.
Yeah. Anyway, I would say you need to get your focus point on something, because right now I'm not quite sure. I think the most in focus thing is somewhere in the foreground with the rushes, and that's not really where I think you want your viewer's eye to go. So I would say focus on the sunset and the mountain behind it, so that we've got something where we're going. This is where we're supposed to be looking. You've kind of got the element of the whole element of the sunset is the subject. So you've got a subject there, and you've got some leading lines kind of leading our eye a little bit because of the reflection and the rushes and that sort of thing. But I would just say, tighten up the focus on the actual subject would be my main critique on this one. But beautiful colors. Okay, one more. We already know what it is, I think.
Yeah. Although I was gonna pick a different one, but we'll do this one since it got shown.
Okay.
So this is Season's Greetings from Michigan by Kevin.
And it's a beautiful scene. It's like the red barn. Basically, it could be a black and white photograph, except for the red in the barn, and that's very striking. And it's basically a kind of a simple view of this scene, because it is all simplified because of it being mostly black and white, and mostly white. Really, it's mostly white, which really makes things simple. But the red is what brings it out. And, the element that maybe you could play with. And I remind me, who was our first photographer? Was it Dan? Gear. Okay, Gear. You threw me off because Dan's was in the... But Gear put himself in the frame, and you could try that. And I would welcome you to, put a tripod there and then walk into the frame, or have someone walk into the frame. But it is a beautiful photograph in spite of, not in spite, but it's standalone on its own of this scene. And it's a very, compelling photograph in the sense of the red just draws your eye in and contrasted with the black and white. Okay, do you want to just, since you had that other one, we might as well go for it.
Yeah, this was a nice one that I wanted to end on. So, Faithful Companion, cool. A portrait of my daughter and her loyal GSD, so German Shepherd Dog. I assume is what that stands for.
And what are we looking at here? Are we looking at her back? Oh yeah, I see.
Yeah, okay, I believe
so
it's her back and the dog is.
Yeah, that's a cool photograph. It's got a bit of a mystery to it, which is a compelling point, right? Because the dog is looking one way and the daughter is looking a different direction. And is this actually a film? Looks like a 4x5, or did you just process it?
Not stated here, so definitely leave a comment.
Anyway, whichever way is fine. But I love the black and white, and the element of her looking in one direction and the dog another direction is kind of a mystery point. Like she's looking at something, because you tend to look at the subject and go, what are they looking at? And it kind of draws your eye in, doesn't it? So the dog is attracted to one thing, and the girl is attracted to something else. It's kind of an interesting sort of mystery, in terms of, and even just like, what are we looking at? It took me a moment to kind of figure it out. So that's good. With Silver Effects, is that who's answering that? It was Process, and you put an edge on it. Okay, cool. Silver Effects has those tools built into it, and that's a cool use of it. All right, thank you guys. Awesome to see your work, and very, very cool. So what I'd like you to do is to follow up with me and the things I mentioned, and definitely put those things as another post into the AYP Club. Other people can comment or whatever. You can get feedback as you want. And please do join me next week for setting your goals for 2022. Come with them. If you have them, come with your goals, and you can put them in the chat. If you don't have them, that's fine. And if you do have a goal, I'm going to show you some tools for making sure those goals get implemented. Don't forget to subscribe and enable the bell. And don't forget, if you're on a Vespa, you're riding down a steep slope. It has those little tires too, which doesn't give you a lot of traction. Make sure you slow down a little bit so you don't make the curve so fast that the bike flops out in front of you. That's my go-to tip for the day. Okay, you guys.
We also have one little quick announcement.
Yeah.
A little community announcement. If you are a long-time viewer of the channel, you'll remember Magnus and Nemi person.
We go on
in
Europe. I was going to go back to your screen there for a minute, but go ahead.
Yep. Here. I've got it up here. They have a GoFundMe to help Nemi get some equipment of her own so that she can continue working on her art. If we scroll down, you'll see some of these photos probably look very familiar.
Yeah, she's doing incredible work. And how old is she?
She is, I think, she was very young. I'm trying to remember.
15 or something?
She's 16 now.
16,
and she's been photographing for 4 years, so since she was 12.
Yeah.
And we're really big fans of her work. So I put it in the chat. I'm going to put it as the top comment here as well, and I'll definitely be donating myself. So I would encourage you to support a wonderful young photographer and help her out on her photography journey.
Yes. So I've always enjoyed seeing her work, and I hope these guys can join us again because they're a fantastic family of photographers. Okay, guys. Well, that's about it. Can you believe this is our last broadcast for 2021? Let's keep our thoughts for a much brighter 2022 and a recovery, back to full life. No matter what happens, though, you've got to put your own thought in terms of where you want this year to go. You can't run things on automatic. As a photographer, we don't shoot on auto. I don't mean, that you have to put everything in manual mode either, but you don't go by life automatically. In other words, just pass by things. You want to stop and really see and look at things, and that's what we do as photographers. So the same thing is true in terms of putting what we want this year to look like out there. Okay, so as you've always heard me say, and you guys can say this along with me. Well, first of all, did I say to subscribe and enable the bell?
Yes,
I can't.
You did.
Okay.
You did.
Okay, it doesn't hurt to say it again. And I'd like you guys to leave your comments when you see this video and share it if you want to. That'd be great. Leave your likes. And remember, and say this with me, wherever you are in the world, please say this with me. Remember to get out and capture your own images of life. Have a really great New Year's, you guys. Creative year. I'll see you next week. We'll set our goals together. Take care.